hope Jon Stewart didn't say that because I haven't watched it yet. He delivered some remarks on the incredible bill because guess what, dude? America fights on a lot of issues. Okay, Travis Kelce versus Ron Purdy or whatever that guy's name is. Okay, did Jesus Christ win or lose at the Super Bowl? Did Satan win or lose at the Super Bowl? These are the things that divide us. But if there's one thing that unites us, at least our politicians, it is always whatever his name is, Brock Purdy, Ron Purdy. I don't care. Okay, I don't watch football, and I don't even need to act like I do any longer because the Super Bowl already happened. Okay. Now, on to the real news. The one thing that Americans do unite on is giving money and weapons to Israel. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. While Israel is conducting an ongoing genocide, Joseph Robinette Brandon has come out and is delivering a signature policy accomplishment.
To be very blunt about it. Not that you wouldn't just focus on the statement. Earlier this morning, the United States Senate, as you all know, voted over.
You reposted Jon Stewart on Twitter? You definitely watched it? No, I reposted without watching it. No. I actually felt really lame because I was going to say I'm saving myself for the stream to watch it. And I felt really lame tweeting that, so I just tweeted some praise for Jon Stewart without actually talking about the details. Sure. Malaysia is actually a U.S. ally. What the fuck are you talking about, man? The Malaysian government are in love with the American government. What the fuck are you talking? Okay. Where are you going? I'm just going off the lib reaction. Yes, I have not seen it. My eyes are virgin eyes. And as far as the Malaysian government goes, I'm letting you know I don't care about the Malaysian government. I'm talking about the Malaysian people's public opinion. Okay? The Malaysian people's public opinion on America in polling is consistently shitty. Now, this doesn't mean that people of other nations don't like America either. A lot of people don't like America's foreign policy. As a matter of fact, one of the most consistent polls conducted is who's the number one danger to the world? And they almost always consistently say the United States of America is the biggest danger to the rest of the world. Okay? However, the reason why a lot of countries still have a much more favorable opinion of the United States of America is because countries only care about the output. And America's cultural output in the form of Hollywood is incredibly positive. Everybody loves American culture. I myself am an Ameriboo. I know so much about American culture despite growing up in Turkey for the first 18 years of my life, okay? And that is because I love Hollywood. That just doesn't mean that I have a favorable opinion of the United States because guess what? I know what the American government does around the world. So these numbers actually don't show the full picture. However, unless we're talking about Poland, which dick rides the United States into oblivion, okay, obviously, but they also don't know how to fucking screw on a light bulb. So of course they're going to have a 3% unfavorability rating for the United States of America. They're not exactly who I would point to when thinking about a nation state full of brilliant foreign policy analysts, okay? Now, having said that, in spite of this list, the only country that has a net negative approval rating for the United States of America is Malaysia, as you can see. That's it. This is what I was simply talking about. I hope you guys understand. And as far as the Jon Stewart stuff goes, the only thing I know about Jon Stewart is what I've seen about liberals reacting to Jon Stewart, and goddamn, are they not doing all right. Their reaction has been kind of nutty mode, I would say. Kanye West also talked about Israel-Palestine and had a really stupid fucking take, as always. So, we'll get to that when we get there. Let's continue. This is what Joe Brandon had to say about this bill.
Overwhelmingly, by a margin of 70 to 29, to move forward with the bipartisan national security bill. Now it moves.
For the record, the only senator on the Democratic side that didn't vote for the genocide package, I believe, was Bernie Sanders, if I'm not mistaken.
Moves to the House. And I urge Speaker Johnson to bring it to the floor immediately.
But maybe, wait.
There's no question that if a Senate bill was put on the floor in the House of Representatives, it would pass. It would pass. And the Speaker knows that. So I call on the Speaker to let the full House speak its...
No, Merkley and Welch also voted against it. Okay. Wait, let's see who the Democratic... Let's look at this. Israel, Ukraine, Senate bill. Bernie was the one who was like very strongly in opposition towards it. But yeah, the House Speaker, maybe the Tea Party constituents, the Tea Party caucus will save us. I don't know. But here's the $95 billion aid package for Ukraine and Israel with a tough path ahead in the House. Senate passed a $95 billion foreign aid bill for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan on Tuesday, with more than 20 Republicans defying former President Donald Trump, who fervently spoke out against the bill. Senate voted 70-29 to approve the bill early, with 22 Republican senators supporting it. Trump, whose opposition to the initial national security supplemental led to its demise, lambasted the foreign aid bill, saying in a social media post over the weekend that the United States should only loan money to foreign allies. Senator Lindsey Graham, a national security hawk who once supported the foreign aid, voted no on the bill Tuesday and echoed Trump's comments that any aid should be a loan, even though much of the money would go to American companies to replenish U.S. arms supplies. Okay? The bill now, dude, this is like having this happen so publicly, and the meta change from supposedly liberal but neutral outlets very openly saying like, no, guys, like this is actually good for the American economy, is a really interesting predicament, because it is actually the driving engine of the American economy is the military industrial complex. This part is true. This is something I talk about all the time. But back in the day when I used to say this kind of thing, people would look at me like I'm a conspiracy theorist. Okay. Like, oh, yeah, dude, sure. I just watched Loose Change. Oh, I just watched Zeitgeist. Look at me. No, this is how it works. Okay? We give money to these countries. We give aid packages to these countries. And then that money goes back to the American military-industrial complex because they're buying our weapons with that money. And it is, I would say, demonic, terrifying, bad in general. It's another way that we subsidize the military-industrial complex, even though we subsidize it on the front side as well. Okay? Now, having said that, though, we could have this kind of, Keynesian economics when it comes to, any other initiative, as a matter of fact, that doesn't engage in death dealing. It's actually a big chunk of what I advocate for because I see the fucking way that it works for the military-industrial complex. So I'm not angry on the principles of this money cycling in and out. I just personally despise the fact that all of our jobs programs revolve around fucking killing people, okay? Now, what's really, really, really frustrating about this entire predicament, beyond the opinions I have on maybe we shouldn't be spending so much on death dealing. Like, sure, it's great that F-35s are fucking flying overseas and lasering like brown children overseas and thousands and thousands of miles away instead of, being able to purchase medication or being able to get medication for free even. But, of course, we always have money in the banana stand for the motherfucking military-industrial complex. The bill now will head to the House, though, with Speaker Mike Johnson in a statement on Monday night that said, strongly suggested he may not take the Senate bill on the floor for a debate for a vote because it does not address the southern border. The Senate agreement did not include any additional money for the southern border after an attempt to pair them collapsed this past week. Chuck Schumer said in a Tuesday morning news conference that he hopes to impress upon Johnson how urgent it is for the House to act on the bill. Schumer said he hopes to speak to Johnson directly in the coming days. Democrats are championing genocide openly. Okay? Democrats, I repeat, are championing genocide openly. They are trying to outflank the Republicans from the right on the issue of genocide when 50% of the Democratic Party's voter base says what Israel is doing is an act of genocide. Think about that. 50% of the Democratic voter base thinks that Israel is doing genocide against the Palestinians. And while that's happening, the Democratic Party's organs of communication are proudly screaming that we need to give billions more to that same genocide. That is incredible. That is incredibly stupid. Okay? It's obviously morally repugnant, but it's also kind of dumb. Meanwhile, the only saving grace in the circumstance are the Republicans who will gridlock and obstruct no matter what. This is literally the grand bargain playing out once again. The Obama administration did this with Social Security cuts. They were going to cut Social Security. And the only thing that stopped the Obama administration from cutting Social Security was the Tea Party caucus and how interested they were in obstructing. It blows my mind. It blows my mind that this is where we're at. Okay? Sorry, it's not 50% of Democrats. It's half of Americans that think Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, according to a UMass Amherst WCVB poll. Slightly more than half of Americans support Israel's military operation in Gaza. Half of Americans also believe Israel is probably or definitely committing genocide. All Americans. It's great. Hasanabi, is Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel going to pay back the money after using it to buy U.S. military equipment? Is it a loan? No, it's not. Usually it's not like a real loan at all. I mean, it depends. But in most instances, if it's coming from America, no, it's not a loan. If it's coming from the IMF, it's a loan. Some of the stuff that America sends is a loan. Others are not. When it is for commerce, usually it's a loan. When it's for money in the form of aid, because they call all of it aid. Okay. Has pro-Palestinian sentiment even been this popular in the United States? No. But also, this doesn't even mean that this is pro-Palestinian sentiment that's popular. Half of Americans think Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza, but they also simultaneously think it's fine, okay? That's the thing you need to understand. They're like, yes, it's genocide, and yes, it's fine. That's oftentimes the actual position. And that's a terrifying prospect, but it's one that you have to reckon with if you want to understand how bloodthirsty and monstrous American small business tyrants can get. Just so you fully understand it. Anyway, meanwhile, we're also doing this while simultaneously Brandon is like secretly talking shit about Benjamin Netanyahu behind closed doors. It's absolutely idiotic. And that is precisely the reason why Biden can't even fully shift the blame on the Netanyahu, use the leverage he has as like, you know, being the American government to stop giving any aid to Israel whatsoever and saying you need to cut it out, Jack. It's the Mac attack, which he should be doing right now. Okay. But instead, he's doing this wishy-washy bullshit where his people keep leaking to the media that he's actually very upset about Netanyahu privately behind closed doors. Okay, well, you're also promoting a fucking $96 billion aid package. 17 billion of it is going directly to the genocidal fucking campaign of Israel. What are you doing? You look like you're asleep at the wheel. And that's precisely why, and I'm going to give you another number here. Trump according to polls, has a 10-point lead on Biden on the issue of Israel. Americans, by a 10-point margin, think Donald Trump would handle Israel better than Joe Biden. A masterclass in politics, folks. Once again, we have bad policy and bad politics. The Democrats have done it again. Sit back and enjoy the show. Okay? Think about that. 10 points. Part of the reason why is because Americans are dumb as fuck, and they think that, like, whoever is president is, like, uniquely incapable of whatever crisis, so they immediately blame whoever is president for the crisis, which in this case does actually make sense. The other reason is because Trump is not currently the president, and therefore they don't know how bad it could get because they don't think about it. They don't think that, like, Donald Trump is personally responsible for a lot of the chaos in Israel right now, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, permanently recognizing annexed lands such as Golan Heights, which is Syrian territory, technically illegally occupied and annexed by Israel. And also, of course, the Jared Kushner-Abraham Accords, which are supposed to publicly normalize relations with all the Gulf states and whatnot with Israel, while completely sidestepping the Palestinian wants and interests in that process, which was understandably very frustrating for the Palestinians, which played a big role in October 7 and as the motivation in October 7. So, having said all of this, I do not believe that Donald Trump would be a better person to deal with Israel-Palestine than Joe Biden. I will never say this. I think he would be worse even if you can get worse. But it would literally be the difference between 100% Hitler and 100% Hitler at that point. So it's marginal. It's a distinction without a difference. So why do Americans think that way? Well, it's because Biden is wishy-washy and weak. It comes across as he's an old senile man asleep at the wheel who keeps saying, come on, Jack, dial it back a little bit. And it's like he thinks it looks good. He thinks it looks good for the liberals, for the libtards who hear him go, he's trying his very best to stop Israel, but he can't do anything. It's like, bitch, it's not that he can't do anything. He can do a lot of things. He's doing a lot of things. He's doing a lot of things in the opposite direction. So all this does is make him look weak on the international stage to all of America's allies that we cannot fucking rein in our attack dog, okay? And also on top of that, domestically, it plays really, really poorly as well because people look at this and go, you're an old man, you fucking idiot. Here, yeah, I mean, this is a good take as well. Breaking, Biden reportedly calls Netanyahu derogatory terms in private as frustrations grow with Israel. Like, what is he going to fucking say, like, anti-Jewish slurs in private? And then all of a sudden it's gonna magically fix the problem? Like, what do you mean derogatory terms? He's like, oh yeah, guys, hold on, dude. He's gonna drop a tactical K word, okay? And then all of a sudden it's gonna clear everything out. The fuck are you saying? What is this bullshit? Derogatory sounds like spin. Yes, they think, the Biden comms people literally think that this works, okay? The Biden comms people think that this makes Biden look good. It makes Biden look dynamic. He's privately very upset with Netanyahu. Come on, guys. He's trying really hard. By the way, the derogatory term apparently is that he called him an asshole, which many people have. He is fucking awful. Netanyahu has been called an asshole time and time again. Okay? Regardless, though, wasn't the U.S. very isolationist? And do you think this sentiment is returning through Trump? The U.S. has never been isolationist. I laugh at anyone who ever thought the United States was isolationist. We have 17 years in our entire fucking history where we haven't been in war. It is a laughable notion to think that the United States has ever been fucking isolationist. And also, isolationism should not be mistaken with like an anti-internationalist perspective, I guess. Like, many people think differently about isolationism. I believe that the United States should not be involved in other people's affairs in the ways that it does, in a violent military or with violent military action, occupying the country with boots on the ground military warfare, or funding and funneling weapons into the country, or doing coups and stuff like that. All of that I consider to be bad, okay? This does not mean I'm an isolationist. I believe in global commerce. I believe in internationalism. I believe in uplifting every country on the planet unconditionally so that we can all prosper together. I believe that we cannot achieve that through capitalism. I believe that we can only achieve that through socialism. But that's besides the point. I think it is ridiculous, okay? I think it's ridiculous to keep assuming that the way that we have been operating for as long as we have, in the violent ways that we have become the hegemonic superpower, should continue, must continue, and will continue without any kind of interference or without any kind of backlash. And that's why we say America is basically at the precipice of dying. It is the death rattle of an empire in decay. And there is no better person to be the leader of said dying empire than a dying man. Every time I open this stream, you're talking about socialism. I don't have any answer to that. You're right. The only answer I have is sometimes I'm talking about the top of the hour ad break and how it comes at the middle of the hour sometimes when I forget to run it at the top of the hour. Okay, so here you go. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe. No, we are not like Rome. Let me tell you why we're not like Rome. The Roman Empire lasted thousands of fucking years, okay? Its death played out over hundreds and hundreds of years. Roman Empire's death rattle or death spiral would be considered the entire length of the American Empire, not just like its death rattle. So the notion that that we can make this comparison is I think, ahistorical. But to be fair, you could make a Roman Empire analogy by saying the Roman Empire technically ended in 1453 when the Ottoman Empire destroyed Byzantine and took over Constantinople and turned into Istanbul. And America is a continuation of the British Empire in the same way. If you want, you can continue it like that. If Byzantine is a continuation of the OG Roman Empire as they found themselves to be, then America could be a continuation of the British Empire. Well, technically, I guess you could say the British Empire is a continuation of the Roman Empire, maybe, as well. Who knows? So, let's watch this old fart who thinks he's the shit, but he's not even the fart, if you know what I'm saying. Talk about this aid package while I go pee.
Its mind and not allow a minority of most extreme voices in the House to block this bill even from being voted on. Even from being voted on. This is a critical act for the House to move. It needs to move. The bill provides urgent funding for Ukraine so it can keep defending itself against Putin's vicious onslaught. We've all seen the terrible stories in recent weeks. Ukrainian soldiers out of artillery shells, Ukrainian units rationing rounds of ammunition to defend themselves, Ukrainian families worried that the next Russian strike will permanently plunge them into darkness or worse. This bipartisan bill sends a clear message to Ukrainians and to our partners and to our allies around the world. America can be trusted. America can be relied upon. And America stands up for freedom. We stand strong for our allies. We never bow down to anyone, and certainly not to Vladimir Putin. So let's get on with this. Remember, the United States pulled together a coalition of nearly 50 nations to support Ukraine. We unified NATO, expanded it. We can't walk away now. That's what Putin's betting on. He just flatly said that. Supporting this bill is standing up to Putin. Opposing it is playing into Putin's hands. As I've said before, the stakes in this fight extend far beyond Ukraine. If we don't stop Putin's appetite for power and control in Ukraine, he won't limit himself just to Ukraine. And the cost for America and our allies and partners are going to rise. For Republicans in Congress who think they can oppose funding for Ukraine and not be held accountable, history is watching. History is watching. History is watching. failure to support Ukraine at this critical moment will never be forgotten. I want to be clear about something, because I know it's important to the American people. While this bill sends military equipment to Ukraine, it spends the money right here in the United States of America, places like Arizona, where the Patriot missiles are built, in Alabama, where the Javelin missiles are built, in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Texas, where artillery shells are made. And the way it works is we supply Ukraine with military equipment from our stockpiles, and then we spend our money replenishing those stockpiles so our military has access to them. Stockpiles that are made right here in America by American workers. That not only supports American jobs and American communities, it allows us to invest in maintaining and strengthening our...
Dude, this is literally the most frustrating. One, you're openly complicit in genocide and saying that this genocide is like giving us money and therefore it's like pretty sick. And secondly, it's like a literal, oh my God, he admitted moment. Okay? It's a straight up, oh my God, he admitted moment. What a major difference. Look at where we're at. Look at what has happened to American culture, American commentary, American politics since, and this guy is not exactly infallible either, but President Dwight D. Eisenhower's military-industrial complex farewell address.
I come to you with a message of leave-taking and farewell.
This speech did not get very much attention. When a new president is coming to power, as John Kennedy was, the spotlight was not on Dwight Eisenhower.
Guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
3 months ago, we got contacted by a family up in Minnesota saying that we have documents from Malcolm Moose. He was responsible in part.
Okay, I don't care about the National Archives. I just fucking want... Oh, yeah. It's so hard to find this shit.
Almost
the exact shit I'm looking for.
Too.
Okay. Where is it? Here's the famous speech. I found it. I think I found it.
In D.C., we present an address by the President of the United States,
Here.
Dwight D. Eisenhower, Science of Address United States.
Security. Originally, this talk was to be part of...
This is not it. This is the Science and National Security speech. Oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind. Oh my God. Why is it so hard to find this kind of stuff always? Jesus Christ, dude. Meanwhile, while I'm talking about American politics and what we're doing here, you have people in the chat going, what would be your solution to the problem? Let Russia take UA because that would happen without the supplies. Brother, Russia has already taken Ukraine with the supplies. Okay? What are you talking about? Eastern Ukraine has been taken over by Russia. Okay? Russia has invaded Eastern Ukraine. In their eyes, they've also openly annexed it as well.
We must
Chat,
guard
stop.
against...
You sent me the same fucking video. Oh my God. Stop.
A vital element in keeping the peace is our military establishment.
Here, this is
Our
it.
arms must be mighty, ready for instant action, so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction. Our military organization today bears little relation to that known of any of my predecessors in peacetime, or indeed by the fighting men of World War II or Korea. Until the latest of our world conflicts, the United States had no armaments industry.
Why do people keep saying, wait, isn't this the majority report? Why do you keep saying that?
American makers of plowshares could, with time and as required, make swords as well.
scientists, the hopes of its children. The cost of one modern heavy bomber is this: a modern brick school in more than 30 cities. It is 2 electric power plants, each serving a town of 60,000 population. It is 2 fine, fully equipped hospitals. It is some 50 miles of concrete pavement. We pay for a single fighter with 500,000 bushels of wheat. We pay for a single destroyer with new homes that could have housed more than 8,000 people. This is not a way of life at all in any true sense. Under the cloud of threatening war, it is humanity hanging from a cross of iron. This attitude is now regarded as being pro-Putin, as being America's being against America's interests. This attitude is now regarded as like being pro-terrorism against America. This is what I try to instill to this audience every fucking day of the week. Okay? And yet, while I bring this up, you still have people that turn around and go, Putin made clear he won't negotiate about Ukraine. There are still 35 million Ukrainians that would go into the fascist regime that wants to eradicate their identity. On top, Putin not stop after UAV was successful. And it's this mentality of fear for valid reasons, mind you, okay? But this mentality of fear is what causes American empire to continue and the American war machine to continue, okay? You can write all the essays on the fucking planet. I'm not even saying personally that there is no aid to be given to Ukraine. Okay, that there should not be any aid given to Ukraine. I'm not saying that at all. However, the issue here is if our reasoning for giving aid to Ukraine is simply to, as Biden also personally admitted here, when I say it, I'm a fucking tanky. When Biden says it, you're like, I can't wait to vote for him. Is that it cycles through the American economy and you personally cope and seethe and make it seem as though, oh, he's only saying that because he wants to win over votes. That's why he's trying to sell the idea of giving more money to a genocidal state like Israel, okay? Or weapons to a genocidal state like Israel. If that's your cope and seethe moment here, well, you have to also reckon with the reality that every dollar that goes to the military-industrial complex is a dollar that could have gone to fixing our roads, to fixing our housing problem, our housing crisis, to fixing our infrastructure, to fixing our power grid, to fixing our public transit opportunities. All of that demonstrates once again that America's motivation overall is to keep the military-industrial complex running, no matter what. Here. This is from the...
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Every gun that is made,
He hasn't mentioned Israel yet. He's trying to convince Americans that Ukraine aid isn't going entirely in the form of pallets of cash. I know that. I've known that since day one. I don't care what Americans know and don't know. What I care about is the fact that it's still happening. I don't want it to happen. I don't want America to continue, one, utilizing Ukrainians as cannon fodder against the foreign adversary of Russia. I don't want Ukrainians to die. I want the Russian aggression to end. I want the Russian invasion to end. And the only solution to that is either nuclear holocaust on the one hand, greatly escalating conflict and tensions and going in full blown with the American military as though Ukraine is a Article 5 NATO country. Okay. This is the wish of the Ukrainians in general, right? And it's an understandable wish that Ukrainians have. Or or aiding Ukraine simply to rebuild Ukraine and not aiding Ukraine militarily in the way that we are aiding Ukraine militarily while simultaneously going to the bargaining table with Putin, telling our Ukrainian allies that, yes, you can do it now. I know it's not the best position, but we will do everything in our power to help you get through this. And we will do everything in our power to bargain and ensure that this war ends. Okay? You have to give peace a shot. It is very frustrating to have to consistently deal with the hypotheticals that people come in here with, okay? Putin will not do that for Biden. Yeah, well, maybe Putin will do that for Trump then. Because here's what I predict, okay? Here's what I predict. I predict potentially, okay, this is wee-woo prediction time. I predict potentially when Trump wins, it's going to be much more favorable terms for Donald Trump in the way that Russia continues to meddle in the affairs of Ukraine, but won't militarily continue meddling in the affairs of Ukraine because it gets the assurances from Donald Trump. Trump looks like a fucking peaceful dove in that situation. Eastern Ukraine is carved out in its entirety for Russia. Eastern Ukraine is now annexed Russian territory, and it'll forever be a point of contention, okay? But that's where you're looking at with Trump, I think. And then it will be packaged as like, look how peaceful Trump was. He brought about peace. Joe Biden is the war party. Democrats are the war party. Trump is the peace party. That's it. Have we just skipped the Trump winning? No. I don't think that Donald Trump chances are like 100% in the way that some people make it seem like it is. Okay? But I do believe that it will be, I mean, I think Trump has a really good shot at winning. And I think that Putin is much more agreeable with Trump because I think he sees him as someone who is much easier to manipulate. If companies like Lockheed Martin is doing so well, why don't they just donate some of their missiles instead of making taxpayers buy them? We could have a G-style donation. Well said, I agree with you, but why would Putin ever come to the table without taking Ukraine at this point? Or will he look weak? Or why should Ukraine do that? And if Trump wins, he will 100% side with Putin and Israel, and it will be the worst. I think that even if Russia has no reason to follow through on the conditions of a peaceful negotiation, a peaceful cessation of hostilities, it is unimaginably stupid to not try. Okay? And if the Western world's approach up until this moment was like, no, we got you. We got you all the way. We got you all the way, fam. We'll give you all the weapons you can at a time when Ukraine is not even just running out of weapons, but also now has a problem with just straight up military, okay? When there's not enough military-aged men that are in the military to defend, to use the weapons that are going in. That are being sent to Ukraine. All this does is prolong the conflict. All this does is prolong the conflict. The military-industrial complex keeps making money. Ukrainians keep dying. Russian conscripts keep dying. And it doesn't ultimately change the dynamic. We saw this with the failure of the counteroffensive. Okay? The slow burn of money and aid that went into Ukraine, over the course of the past 2 years, created a perfect environment for the American military-industrial complex. Okay? And at the time, I said that our interests in Ukraine are not honest or just, even though we are on the right side morally of this conflict, because Ukraine is being invaded. Russians are the ones doing the invasion. They're in the wrong. Because our interests are simply prolonging the conflict and crippling the Russian military, everyone fucking yelled at me and said I'm a Vladimir Putin defender. Over and over and over again. My opinion on this has not changed. That's not true. Ukraine has not mobilized men below the age of 27. They try to avoid it, but if they still have a lot of young men. Bro, why don't you go? Why don't you fight? What's stopping you? Like, this is the thing that I hate the most. People are constantly fucking chirping about like, yeah, let's mobilize all the young people in Ukraine. Yeah, dude, totally. It's been so great so far. Why don't you go? No, I don't want the war. Don't get me wrong. Like, that's wild. Let's just rip out the entirety of the fucking young male population of Ukraine. Fuck it. Conscript women, too. What I said about America's involvement and interest in Ukraine was openly revealed by the likes of Liz Warren and also the likes of Lindsey Graham and other American senators as well from both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Lindsey Graham openly admitted, for 5% of our military budget, we've been able to cripple 50% of our foreign adversaries' military without a single American active duty service member dying in the process. I'd say that's a great return on investment. And that's it. That's our only interest. That's our sole interest. And the real return on investment, of course, isn't even crippling the Russian military. We don't give a fuck about that either. The real return on investment is that we are able to recycle these funds back into the military-industrial complex, which line up the pockets of our politicians. That's the whole point. And the only way they sell that is by telling you a wonderful little story. A wonderful little story that, like, actually, our interests here are just, actually, we're on the right side, which is true. We are on the right side in Ukraine. Okay? We're on the right side for wrong reasons. If they have so many young men ready and willing to fight, why do I keep seeing videos of that young guy with Down syndrome loading the mortar wrong and then getting screamed at by his comrades? And it was like the 5th video of that guy. Some chatters laughing at what I said, but it's true and sad. You can tell how scared the poor guys while they yell at him for almost killing them all. I have not seen that video. I never see stuff like that. What do you think Ukraine can put on the table to negotiate at this point? Dismantle Azov, abolish ad breaks? Oh, fuck. Agree not to join NATO? No. Ukraine could never abolish the top of the hour ad breaks, okay? They're going to come regardless. But if you want to abolish top of the hour ad breaks, you might not get a $96 billion spending package coming your way, but maybe you can get gifted a sub if you're lucky. If not, you can subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Genuine question. If Ukrainian citizens want to keep fighting, should we not support them? I hate this conversation because it makes it seem like we're doing this at the behest of Ukrainians. Okay? We're not doing this for Ukrainian interest. Please stop repeating this lie that the Democratic Party and the liberal media tells you all the fucking time. The notion that like, oh, well, the Ukrainians want to keep fighting, we should help them, is a silly one. And it's one that I've seen a million times over with the Kurds. Okay? That's it. It's always the same shit. This is where our supposed interest in Ukraine got the Ukrainians. I care about less Ukrainians dying, okay? I don't want Ukrainians to die. I want that to end. I want Russia to no longer invade Ukraine. And you can either do one of two things. One, continue ramping it up. Continue ramping up the tensions and the escalation and the violence, and actually full-blown do an Article 5 NATO invasion of Ukraine from the western side, go in and defend Ukraine, put a no-fly zone over Ukraine, which is what fucking Ukrainians want. It's not like they don't want that. Ask the Ukrainians, do they think we should do Article 5 and defend Ukraine? What do you think they're going to say? They're going to say, no, actually, we don't want you to save us? No, of course they want that. This is what I keep mentioning to people, and they don't see it. They don't understand it. Since day one, the number one thing that Ukrainians want is defense from NATO forces. Why haven't we given that to them? And we just keep sending them fucking refurbished weapons and going, all right, go ahead. Fight on your own. You got this. All the while, we make a tidy profit. That's it. Serious question. Do the Kurds, even despite the inevitable betrayals, regret U.S. aid? Like, I get that our motives aren't pure, but it also feels shitty going, I know you want help, but it's worse for you in the long run. If America was genuinely honest and in the interest of like Ukrainian emancipation or even Kurdish nation state building, they would allow, or they would create an environment with our NATO ally, Turkey, okay, where there can be a Kurdish nation state designed and built whole cloth, not dissimilar to the autonomous Kurdish region in Iraq. Of course, that would most likely resemble Israel in some ways, and that would obviously be a destabilizing force in the region that Iran and Turkey would definitely be against. But the problem is, they're not doing that. They don't want to do that. They don't want to allow there to be any kind of nation state because it's better. It's better for America to utilize the Kurds in the region as a militia force when they see fit, when they want to destabilize, when they want to fucking use them against like our allies and partners in the area, in the region. Even Radio Free Europe is all everyone needs to hear. What is this? Even Radio Free Europe complaining about the drafting process in the Ukrainian army. Yeah. Dude, that's crazy. That's crazy that Radio Free Europe is like cooking Ukraine now, which many people forget. Ukraine used to get a lot of bad press before the Russian invasion about how corrupt it was, how corrupt the Zelensky administration was. All of this, and this is from 11 months ago, is a telltale sign that we're pulling out of our unconditional support for Ukraine. This is literally the American State Department, okay? Look, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty is funded whole or in part by the American government. Vladimir Putin went out and straight up said a whole bunch of nonsensical bullshit like Ukraine is all Russian. I'm invading Ukraine because, or he didn't really mention that part, even though he is doing that. But he kept saying like, oh yeah, Ukraine is Russian. We are one people. We are one people. We'll get over this. We'll get over this. Meanwhile, he's like fucking bombing the shit out of Eastern Territories, took over the Eastern Territories entirely by force. Okay. This is 11 months old. Just I know. Even 11 months ago, that's what I'm saying. Even 11 months ago, the American State Department is like, pulling the ripcord. All that stuff is irredentist and completely nonsensical. Okay? all of what Vladimir Putin said about Ukraine in the first 36 minutes of his fucking conversation with Tucker Carlson was nonsensical, irredentist bullshit, okay? Russian Empire shit. But there were plenty of parts after that where he talked about the many different instances where he wanted to turn Russia into Israel, okay, for America. I don't know if he was honest about it or not, but he isn't wrong when he says Russia is a bourgeois state. Like, we are not. We are a capitalist state. We are not a fucking communist state. Here's the problem. You either go full tilt and go to war, okay, and do Article 5, and there are literally chatters in here who are fantasizing about that prospect, which spells doom and gloom and potential nuclear holocaust, which is something that I don't know if you want to take a shot on, but I guess it's like pretty suicidal. It's also additionally suicidal for Ukraine and Europe in general. Okay? Or you tell Ukraine, all right, we have to come to the table and start the bargaining process to stop this war from continuing. But why would America do that? Why would the United States of America do that? Why should they do that? The Democratic Party is perfectly valid and perfectly happy when they see that their own voters are like, yeah, no, we're on the right side on this war, which is true, right? So we should continue it. We should continue arming. Even independent outlets such as this one still have a shit ton of people in here that come in here to say, no, you're right. We have to just keep prolonging this process, delaying the inevitable. And for those of you who say, if Putin says no, then what? Then you keep arming Ukraine. What changed? Nothing. What changed? What changed? Nothing. We still ended up at 0.1, 0.0. Is there really a right side to the Russia-Ukraine conflict? Yes. 100%. There is. I don't give a shit that Zelensky is a bad leader or whatever. I don't care. I'm not one of these people who's like, oh my God, Zelensky's so hot. He can clap my ass cheeks. And he's the greatest leader anyone's ever seen. He's so charismatic, all this shit. Okay. But yeah, there is definitely a right side of this. Yes. The Ukrainian people are invaded by the Russian military. Okay. Ukrainian emancipation is a just cause. It is the righteous cause. I am not a believer that like Russia and Ukraine are one nation and that Russia should violently seize all of these territories and annex it. So there is a real right side to this, okay? What's your suggestion? Bargain away a third of your country? What prevents the next time a bully decides to just take something knowing it will get a slice? I mean, once again, if that happens, back to square one. Nothing changed, okay? This is the issue. That happens. Back to square one, nothing changed. I am perfectly consistent on this. I believe that we should be pushing for a real ceasefire in Gaza. I believe we should be pushing for a real ceasefire in Ukraine as well. On the one side, obviously, our allies are the ones who are under attack. On the other side, our allies are the ones doing ethnic cleansing. So we have even more power to stop the Israeli genocide than we do when we do with respect to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. However, That shouldn't stop us from trying. It is not up to you, you fucking imperialistic fucks. Why should Ukraine? You are being so fucking US centric, it's painful. Yes, dude, I am. My analysis is only America this, America that. I don't have any fucking deep thought ever. I am an imperialist for saying that Russia has no right to Ukrainian territory and that Ukrainian emancipation is a just cause. All of this stuff is correct. America's involvement in the process, however, is either nut up or shut up. Okay? And if you're not going to do fucking Article 5, if you're not going to go in with NATO, then fucking work towards a peaceful agreement, a peaceful solution. And if it doesn't fucking work, then you're back to square one anyway. Why is this so confusing for so many people? America, on the other hand, has no interest in actual peace in Ukraine. They will leave Ukrainians out to dry the moment that the military-industrial complex does not have enough weapons to send over there because they're too busy sending it to Israel. Even the money that we have now recycled back into the military-industrial complex does not immediately magically translate to weapons for Ukraine tomorrow. There's a runway here for production. Okay? There is a runway. If we didn't have such a hostile economic relation with Russia, they wouldn't have as much as a reason to invade other nations. When the genocidal Tempur-Pedic Joe loses in November by 9 p.m. election day, very few libs will recall any of this stuff as a part of the problem, and several of them will write articles asking what went wrong. Yeah, and then many of them will come to the conclusion that it was actually the left that wasn't sufficiently pro-genocide Joe. Could we actually run out of weapons? Yes, we can. It's not actual weapons that we're running out of. It's munitions. And yes, because there's only a finite amount of supply. So, like, unless we have a complete command economy that's geared towards war, like it's fucking World War II, yes, we currently have run into the ammo shortage already, especially when it comes to artillery. There's a reason why we had to go and ask South Korea to supply Ukraine with artillery shells. And then when Israel came into the fray, we were like, oh, fuck, hold up. We literally don't have enough artillery for Ukraine to begin with, and we want to give it to Israel because we love Israel's baby murder campaign a lot more than we love Ukraine's defending itself against Russia campaign. And that's what happened. I think people just literally think we develop weapons and munitions like a video game or something. You know what I mean? It's not. It's not like a video game at all. People don't understand Ukraine cannot win this without full NATO Article 5, so the only true option is ceasefire. They think real-life battlefield is a video game. Exactly. What do you think should be the next move of Ukraine? It's not a cookie clicker. You can't scale infinitely. Yes, you also you literally run out of materials too. Like if you ramp up your productive productive output, if you ramp up your production process, for example, when we're talking about shells and whatnot, then all of those companies are going to say, well, we have the runway for it. We might as well keep selling it. So then now you've created even more demand, or rather you have to create demand for the artillery now. This is the reason why I showed you the Dwight Eisenhower military industrial complex clip originally. Okay? Because that's where this comes from. It didn't magically appear out of nowhere. There's a reason why it has consistently grown and grown and grown. Our budgets keep growing. We have a permanent growth strategy under capitalism. And if the military industrial complex is our most significant, most viable industry, our industrial output is always going to reflect that permanent growth. And if our industrial output is just weapons, then we have to keep finding new conflicts to sell more weapons to. The Ukrainian military aid package budget was almost identical to the Afghanistan budget, down to the last fucking number. All you had to do was like move a couple places in the Excel spreadsheet, and then boom. Numbers wise, we moved all of those resources that we needed to continue the occupation in Afghanistan to aiding and abetting the Ukrainian emancipatory movement. Okay? Obviously, one is unjust and one is just. Okay? But understand that the main motivation within the United States military industrial complex is not to defend Ukraine at all. It's to simply keep manufacturing more weapons. And every dollar, as Dwight D. Eisenhower said, every dollar that goes into making an artillery shell is a dollar that could have gone to building a new house. I am not saying that we should just cut out the Ukrainians in the bargain entirely. Just fucking write them off. Tell them to fuck off. Okay? I'm not saying that at all. I'm simply stating that if we were truly a good country, if we truly had honest interests, we would do everything in our power to try and stop the invasion. First, through violent means, certainly, but then always with the conditions that our aid will come. However, you have to sit at the table and bargain with the people that are invading you eventually. We in the Western world did the exact opposite. We did the exact opposite because we don't care. Here. I will never forgive this take. And I will never forget this take. We haven't lost one soldier in the Ukraine war, spent less than 5% of our military budget. 50% of the Russian army has been destroyed by the Ukrainians. So they would be at Crimea already if the administration hadn't been so slow and giving weapons. I don't know where the clip is, but there's also a straight up video of this as well. It's on the record, where he talks about it being like an incredible return on investment. I think people are pushing back because there's nothing to bargain about. What needs to happen to prevent the annexation of Ukraine is for Russia to pull out. Russia has all the control over peace. I agree. I know. I agree with you. People hear you criticizing the intention behind the American aid, are unable to hold that in parallel with the fact that it's a just cause. All the media narrative squash nuance so that you're either for or against them. Exactly. When it comes to American foreign policy, you have to have a black and white approach. You have to have a good and evil approach, right? Because if you don't have that, you actually start looking into the nuances and what we must do. You all of a sudden are no longer unconditionally supporting these people who have been fucked over. Okay, these people who have been violently apprehended, had their territory seized from them in incredibly deadly ways by an invading force. How dare you? How dare you say we should probably put an end to this conflict or try to put an end to this conflict through other solutions, considering that the military solution is not working? Libs need to give up on Crimea. Zelensky already has given up on Crimea, or at least has said we'll push the annexation of Crimea 15 years into the future. That was one of the conditions discussed in the 15-point plan in Istanbul or in Turkey. Okay. And then, wait, what is this? Yeah, they were negotiating until September 2022 when Russia annexed additional 4 oblasts and made Ukraine accepting it their minimum demands for peace. The problem with your argument is you want peace and negotiations, but you invested 0 seconds to learn what Russia's current minimum demands are. And you're also unaware that flow of aid to Ukraine is important leverage that they will have during any negotiations. Brother, this aid is not permanent. This aid is simply America reaffirming its position that we are unconditionally in support of Ukraine. This aid is not going to save Ukraine. I'm Turk, by the way. Salam. Of course, the fucking hungry to sell Bayraktar ass over here. I agree. It's for the wrong reasons, but I don't really care about reasoning when it's needed. I don't care if it's a ghost dog told them to send it as long as they do. Yeah, 3 girls on 1 pudge. You also earlier readily admitted that you want Article 5 to happen. So I know what your interest in it is. It's quite bloodthirsty, as a matter of fact. Anyway, I think the Russian annexation of the 4 oblasts being permanent as a minimum guarantee is, in my assessment, probably a bargaining chip because Russia currently has the leverage. Like you say, nut up or shut up. Yeah, except nutting up in this circumstance means possible nuclear holocaust. So I'm not in favor of dying in a possible nuclear holocaust because we could not come to a peaceful negotiation and better terms on Russia no longer invading Ukraine. LA's not getting nuked, man. It's okay. Yeah, it doesn't matter. What's getting nuked is probably Europe, by the way. So to all my European chatters in here who are really fucking salivating with their NATO support, because I have noticed that a lot of like EU chatters who love American politics turn into like bloodthirsty Hitlerian monsters when it comes to NATO for some weird fucking reason. That obsession with being like a socialist, leftist, or social democrat in an EU country also weirdly translates to being like the most bloodthirsty NATO Hitlerite for some reason. I don't know what it is. Let me tell you, there's a reason why France and other countries originally, with the exception of Western Germany, of course, they were literally the Nazis and also were very excited at the prospect of being involved in NATO. Many of those countries originally did not appreciate the fact that they would be giving up their own personal autonomy by joining NATO and becoming basically a territory for America to utilize against the USSR early on, especially when America started putting weapon systems in Europe. Europe was not as horny and as bloodthirsty back then. Now, obviously, the attitudes have shifted dramatically. If you ask them, if you ask many people now, they're fine being a vassal state because that's the only reality that they do know. But there was a reason why this was a tricky predicament originally. What is your issue with NATO? I always thought it was a good thing, but you seem to be against it. Yes. My issue with NATO is that it is another wing of American empire. It is perhaps one of the most important wings of the American empire. It's a security racket. It's a protection racket. It is in its inception. It was created completely to fight against the prevailing influence of communism and socialism. And I have talked about it many times over. It should have been dissolved and disbanded after the USSR was illegally, after the dissolution of the USSR. And yet it never did, because That wasn't the major reason. Major reason was fight communism tooth and nail, fight socialism tooth and nail everywhere around the world, and bring all of these countries directly under the arm of the American empire, and then keep refeeding our military industrial complex. Yeah, if Ukraine wants a more favorable peace deal, they should probably do it before they run out of military-age men. Why do liberals think prolonging this war is good for Ukraine? Draft riots will happen and will cause further internal destabilization for Ukraine. Yeah. Yes. Imagine having forcible conscription and fucking additional, like, expanding on the forcible conscription. Many people trying to escape Ukraine as a consequence of that, which is already happening in slower, in like, smaller versions of that are already occurring. And then having massive destabilization as a consequence of that, having to give up half your military police to like dealing with that shit, while simultaneously working on defending your territories, what remains of your territories from the Russian military. Okay. All the while, guess who's in charge now in America? Motherfucking Donald Trump, who is infinitely more agreeable to the terms and conditions of Vladimir fucking Putin. Anyway. Trump is anti-NATO. That's your candidate? Yeah, you know me. I fucking love Donald Trump, dude. Yeah. Russia has its own military-industrial complex that lets them do shit like this without running out of Jews. Yeah, the irony here, of course, is that, like, you know how I talked about Keynesian economics here for the United States of America and its military-industrial complex? Guess who also has that going on? Motherfucking Russia. Guess what has happened to their GDP? According to economists, their GDP has actually grown far beyond what the prediction was in the Western world over the course of the fucking war. Why? Well, because they're also doing the same shit. They're doing America shit. And I mean this is a negative. I hope you understand. The greatest way to ensure that there isn't real hot war with any foreign adversary is through securing trade partnerships. That's it. The way to stop violence at the domestic level is by fixing the underlying material problems. There's a reason why we have yet to go to war, direct war with China. We have incredibly important global trade partnerships with fucking China. Okay, you are an absolute eye-opener for me on a lot of things I thought were good things, Law. I don't know why I'm coughing. Okay? No matter how much politicians fantasize about going to war with China, our trade relations with China is what keeps everyone at bay. That's it. I feel like that's a completely different conversation. Say the USA gets directly invaded somewhere and we naturally institute a draft in case the numbers are needed because it's directly on our own soil. Are we a failed state because of some people with fleet and not to be drafted? I think it's different when people's cousin's house got blown up down the road. They're not being drafted and sent to Iraq. No, I understand that, but like, that's a really cool fucking take to have from the United States of America. You're not in Ukraine. You know what I mean? Like, there's hella people that are dodging the draft, even if it is in defense of their own country, because they don't want to fucking die. And I understand that completely. I'm not going to sit here and fantasize about defending America if it was invaded. Like, I'd probably get the fuck out. That's what, by the way, not just me, but that's what rich people do for the record. They get the fuck out. You think rich people are being conscripted to fucking fight in Ukraine? Fuck no. Whichever rich people are remaining in Ukraine, they fucking got out long ass time ago. Yeah. I knew like 4 Russians who spent all of March 2022 in Sri Lanka on the southern coast, all parents of doctors and shit. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you already saw this in Russia. Motherfuckers who could get out immediately got out because they're like, I'm not trying to get conscripted to go fucking kill Ukrainians. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like, no shot, which makes sense. Why do you think so many Russians around our age are suspiciously no longer in Russia? Dying valiantly holding Naperville from the Red Invasion. Trade is the best way to douse any kind of tension and any kind of heat with some cold water. Okay? That's it. That's how you stop all the shit. Of course, we have an antagonistic trade relationship that is like otherwise very competitive against Russia, which allows us to continue playing the role of Russia being a foreign adversary. We do not have that same kind of approach with China. So while we use internally China as a scary threat to our dying empire, ultimately we're not as aggressive. We're not as aggressive in our defense of Taiwan. Like, we give a shit about the Taiwanese people. Get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? And that same argument exists there too. Guys, we care about the Taiwanese people. They want independence. We have to give them independence. We have to do that. We have to do that. It's always like, it's so suspicious that America is consistently always on the right side of democracy, right? Except we're not in any of our foreign adversaries and the way that they carry themselves. Obviously, it's not a consistent position. It's not consistent at all. The only thing that's consistent is we get to sell weapons, okay? We get to sell weapons. We get to take taxpayer funds and put it back into the military industrial complex, and that's it. Anyway. Don't forget that a couple hundred years ago, the idea of US and UK being on good terms was atrocious. Yeah. I disagree with this trade leverage as it relates to Russia because Europe was unable to leverage their trade to fend off the invasion in Ukraine in 2014 or now. Yeah, Europe's trade relations are ultimately insignificant. What matters is America's interest, okay? And you're wrong. They did try to fucking institute the Minsk agreements. It's just that there was another player involved that gave confidence to one side to violate the Minsk agreements, and the other side was already also interested in not really maintaining the Minsk agreements anyway, and utilized the violation of the Minsk agreements that was put forward by the trade relations partners, okay, in Europe, that then turned around and said, oh, we're doing this because we want to defend Donetsk. We want to defend LPR and DPR. Look at all the people that died there. We have to defend them because Ukraine is killing them. Ukraine is killing their own people with artillery. Okay, 13,000 people had died at that point. Now how many fucking people have died? Now how many Russians have died? Now how many Ukrainians have died in that exact same fucking territory? The number is 10x. Was that a good defense of LPR and DPR by Russia? Fuck no, of course not. It was bullshit. It was a bullshit reason. So yes, I do think that personally, Vladimir Putin, I hate to give it on, I hate to tell the sweatiest liberals of all time that they are correct on Vladimir Putin being like a Duginist, imperialist guy. There is some truth to what they say in that regard. However, his own horniness to take over Ukraine will always be met with the reality that a takeover of Ukraine is going to be impossible for Russia. That has not changed. Okay? Impossible in air quotes? Bitch, what do you mean? Of course, it's still impossible. You cannot permanently annex Ukraine. You just can't do that. They will do terrorism for the rest of their lives, as they have every right to do so. Look at Israel, Palestine. Hello? Has that not taught you anything? If the United States cannot permanently annex a nation, then Russia certainly will not be able to do that. That's it. Ukraine people aren't terrorists, though? No, I don't mean terrorism as a bad thing, dude. What are you talking about? Okay, I mean terrorism as a means of like emancipation from Russian invasion, okay? I'm talking Russia permanently annexes Ukraine. What the fuck do you think the Ukrainians are going to do? They're going to do terrorism, okay, as a means of liberation, an insurgency. Like non-state actors fighting against a state actor. Anyway. This stuff is so dumb. But this is simply just the Ukrainian side of the equation. The real other side of the conversation is the Israel side, which we haven't even talked about. Because while we are technically on the right side, even for the wrong reasons in Ukraine, we are definitely on the wrong side when it comes to Israel's ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza.
Our own defense manufacturing capacity. Look, this bill meets our national security priorities in the Middle East as well. It includes greater support for our troops serving in the region, who continue to defend against militia attacks backed by Iran. It also provides Israel with what it needs to protect its people against a terrorist group like Hamas and Hezbollah and others. And it will provide life-saving humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people who desperately need food, water, and shelter. They need help. Finally, this bill includes critical funding for our national security priorities in Asia. Because even as we focus on the conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine, we must not take our eye off our national security challenges in the Pacific. It's the responsibility of a great nation, and we are a great nation.
Bro just said Ukrainians aren't terrorists, heavily implying they aren't brown. European brains need to be studied. I don't want to study European brains because I'm afraid of what I will see. Okay? I don't want the Hitlerite particles Geiger counter to break so fast.
That the rest of the world looks to. And I mean that. The rest of the world looks to us. The stakes were already high for American security before this bill was passed in the Senate last night. But in recent days, those stakes have risen. And that's because the former president has set a dangerous and shockingly, frankly, un-American signal to the world. Just a few days ago, Trump gave an invitation to Putin to invade some of our allies, NATO allies. He said, if an ally didn't spend enough money on defense...
What's happening in Asia now? What do you mean? Taiwan, which is our weapon that we wield. It's gross, man. It's fucking gross. Here's why it's gross, okay? I don't think China is ever going to, according to what Xi Jinping has said, is ever going to be like, all right, fuck it, make Taiwan an American military base. Go ahead. Okay. Its closest point is a mile off the shoreline. It's technically the main bulk of the island is 100 miles off the coast. Its airspace is intertwined with mainland China, and they're a very important trade partner for Taiwan anyway. I'm saying China is. America's own personal opinion on the matter, or at least the way that they communicate to the rest of the world, is called strategic ambiguity. What does this mean? It means that, yes, we will keep funneling weapons into Taiwan. We will keep saying, Taiwan will defend you, will defend you, will defend you, will defend you, while also simultaneously saying, guess what? Taiwan and China are one nation, as a matter of fact. That is the official policy, but that's not what you hear if you listen to the media or if you listen to any number of these fucking American empire is better than anything else. Andy's out here. Okay? There's a reason why lolly defenders oftentimes assume this position as well. They like defending American empire and they like defending lolly. There's a there's a reason why, while yes, the Taiwanese population does want independence inevitably, okay, and that is understandable, because why the fuck would they want more stringent, more rigorous Chinese control over their own civil liberties that they've gotten used to? Okay, why would they? Nobody wants that. Hong Kong, similar situation there. While they understandably want independence from the People's Republic of China, the overwhelming majority of Taiwanese population still, to this day at least, says they don't want to rock the boat. The current order of business is good. Okay? That's it. That's it. This is the consistent position in polls in Taiwan, which is that, yes, the majority still wants independence down the line. It is never discussed what the down the line time frame looks like. And beyond that, the current order of business in the way that the status quo in the way that it exists is, yes, we do not want to be invaded by China, and we do not want to rock the boat and continue working with China in the way that we have. If I am Taiwanese or a Taiwanese politician, I'm looking at Ukraine, I'm like, I am trying desperately not to do shit. Okay? Yeah, there's a reason why Biden also says our interest in the Pacific instead of Taiwan, for a reason. Okay? Because Taiwan is not the real fucking interest. Our interest is trying to have stress points, pressure points against a foreign adversary that we're gearing up in terms of war against. Cold War, hot war, doesn't matter. We have also greatly militarized formerly non-militarized nations like Japan. Okay? Japan is no longer simply just a American military base, okay, an island that we are using as an American military base. But we also on top of that are allowing Japan to also militarize again. South Korea obviously has been militarized since day one. It was a literal military dictatorship originally. All of this spells trouble. Australia, the Philippines. We are surrounding the South China Sea with contentious adversaries that we will very easily throw into conflict if need be, with the sole purpose of trying to take down or cripple our foreign adversary if push comes to shove. Okay? It's terrifying. The AUKUS agreement is terrifying, obviously. nuclear subs being built in Australia. It's great for the Australian economy, mate. Fucking awesome. I love it personally. Yeah. AUKUS, the Quad, Philippines, Vietnam. We're encircling China. Fucking hell, mate. We got fucking nuclear submarines, mate. Putting a fucking shrimp on a barbie. Great. We're sick cunts. It's great for our economy, right? Bear dinkum. This broadcast is an absolute oasis in terms of U.S. foreign policy. Yeah, that's why so many people fucking despise me. Anyway, putting a nuke. Yeah, try that. Try that in a fucking small town, mate. You've heard about shrimps on the barbie. How about a fucking nuke on the barbie? Prawn, not shrimp. Smudge. Okay. All right, let's finish all this.
He would encourage Russia to, quote, do whatever the hell they want, end of quote. Can you imagine a former president of the United States saying that? The whole world heard it. The worst thing is he means it. No other president in our history has ever bowed down to a Russian dictator. Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I never will.
Oh, hell yeah, Brandon.
It's dumb, it's shameful, it's dangerous, it's un-American. When America gives us word, it means something. When we make a commitment, we keep it.
Dang right.
And NATO is a sacred commitment. Donald Trump looks at this as if it's a burden. When he looks at NATO, he doesn't see the alliance that protects America and the world. He sees a protection racket. He doesn't understand that NATO is built on fundamental principles of freedom, security, and national sovereignty.
Yeah, by the way, how is this any different than what, like, normal Republicans, not Trump, says? And how is this any different than, like, what you hear from the supposedly radical progressives, by the way? NATO's here for the principles of freedom and justice and honesty and all the good things. This is a sacred pact. Yeah, man. So sacred. It's so sick. All of our enemies out there, they're not interested in self-interest. They're not rational actors, Jack. They're bad. And they're wrong. And we, on the other hand, are always right. And so are our allies. They're doing righteous. I don't know. Look, I don't know where this goes with China, okay? I don't know where we go with China. I am not excited to find out. Looking at America's track record, it's not somewhere good, okay? That's all I'm going to say.
As for Trump, principles never matter. Everything is transactional. He doesn't understand that the sacred commitment we've given works for us as well. In fact, I would remind Trump and all those who would walk away from NATO, Article 5 has only been invoked once, just once in our NATO history, and it was done to stand with America after we were attacked on 9/11. We should never forget it. You know, our adversaries have long sought to create cracks in the alliance.
Yeah, that was real sick that we did that, by the way. Yeah, that was cool.
The greatest hope of all those who wish America harm is for NATO to fall apart. And you can be sure that they all cheered when they heard Donald Trump and heard what he said. I know this. I will not walk away. I can't imagine any other president walking away. For as long as I'm president, if Putin attacks a NATO ally, the United States will defend every inch of NATO territory. Let me close with this. You've heard me say this before. Our nation stands at an inflection point in history, where the decisions we make now are going to determine the course of our future for decades to come. This is one of those moments. And I say to the House members, House Republicans, you got to decide. Are you going to stand up for freedom? Or are you going to side with terror and tyranny? You're going to stand with Ukraine? You're going to stand with Putin? Will we stand with America or with Trump? Republicans and Democrats in the Senate came together to send a message of unity to the world. It's time for the House Republicans to do the same thing, to pass this bill immediately, to stand for decency, stand for democracy, to stand up to a so-called leader hell-bent on weakening American security. And I mean it sincerely. History is watching. History is watching. In moments like this, we have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America. The world is looking to us. There's nothing beyond our...
Okay, I don't care about any of this. All right. We're going to talk about Biden's doctor in a second, and then we're going to get to the good stuff. John freaking Stewart, baby. That's right. The Israel-Ukraine aid package is a big one, obviously. However, before I move off from that, House Speaker Mike Johnson, okay, House Speaker Mike Penis has cast doubts on Ukraine and Israel aid package as senators push through the final vote. Now, are libs back? Fuck no. We'll see. Libs are very mad at Jon Stewart, it turns out. So I'm very excited. Oh my God, Yo, it's CN is back though. Daily delivery for Hasanabi. I got a sandwich from Yo at CN. Chatters that are behaving themselves. Stay safe, gang. Yo at CN says. Thank you. Yo, it's CN. The bill now heads to the House. However, Speaker Mike Penis, in a statement Monday night, strongly suggests he may not take the Senate bill to the floor. Chuck Schumer said in Tuesday morning news conference that he hopes to impress upon Johnson how urgent it is for the House to act on the bill. Schumer said he hopes to speak to Johnson directly in the coming days. My message to Johnson is that this is a rare moment where history is looking upon the United States and seeing if we will stand up for our values, stand up to bullies like Putin, and do the right thing. I will say to Speaker Johnson, I am confident that there's a large majority in the House who will vote for this bill. I'm confident there are many Republicans in this caucus. I know I've spoken to a whole bunch of them who feel strongly we ought to pass this bill, and I will urge Speaker Johnson to step up to the moment and do the right thing. Schumer said House Republicans will be giving an enormous gift of Vladimir Putin if they do not act. The responsibility now falls on Speaker Speaker Penis, and House Republicans to approve this bill swiftly. And I call on Speaker Penis to rise to the occasion, to do the right thing, bring this bill to the floor. As I said, given the large majority, robust majority here in the Senate, it is clear that this bill was brought on the floor. This bill is brought to the floor. It will pass. Schumer's asked a number of questions about possible House amendments to this package. While he didn't fully rule out considering a House amendment version of the bill, he did repeatedly state that he believes the House ought to pass the Senate version. I mean, no one even knows how this loan program would work because Donald Trump says something doesn't mean Republicans should march into lockstep to do it. Yeah. I applaud the bipartisan coalitions of senators who came together to advance the agreement, and I urge the House to move on with this with urgency, the statement said. President Joe Biden issued a statement on Tuesday. That's what he said in the statement. We already covered it. In the recent years, there's been a noticeable shift in the ideological makeup of both the Democratic and Republican parties. I don't think there has been. I think they've always been unconditionally in support of invading foreign nations and destabilizing foreign nations. America's foreign policy is always bipartisan, with like slight deviations from the norm, but overall, it's just bipartisan. It's America. It is just as reactionary. This is why Martin Luther King opposed capitalism and militarism, which is weird that we never really hear about either of those things that he opposed, even though he certainly opposed them. Just something to consider. But yes, the two-headed snake, exactly. It is wild to me that the only saving grace of like stopping this kind of funding package that will go to the only way to stop this spending package that is going to funnel funds into the offensive, morally repugnant Israeli genocide campaign in Gaza is the freaking psychopathic, right-wing, reactionary Republicans. That might say like silly things like, oh, we need conditional loans, or this isn't aggro enough, or whatever the fuck. I don't know. Or it's not working to do baby murder in the way that we want it. It's not like they're peaceful doves themselves, but they simply will oppose it for silly reasons. But ultimately, it will that could be the saving grace that will stop this funding package from going in. The reality is, by the way, for those of you who are saying, well, why don't we tie the Ukraine aid separately? Why don't we separate them? There ain't no fucking way a single Republican is voting for Ukrainian aid, okay? They tie it to the Israeli aid so that it actually gets through, so that there's actually a pressure point here. Republicans are not fucking voting for another single dime of Ukrainian aid, okay? They don't give a shit. Israel is the motivator here. Israel is the reason why even Republicans are voting for it. And Israel is the reason why they have a harder time not voting for it. What the fuck is this, chatter?
Has changed.
Oh.
It's no longer about nations, ideologies, or ethnicity. It's an endless series of proxy battles fought by mercenaries and machines. War and its consumption of life has become a well-oiled machine. War has changed.
But in some ways, war never changes. Otacon.
ID tag soldiers carry ID tag weapons, use ID tag gear. Nanomachines inside their bodies.
Yeah, the actual intro is so much better graphically. No need to change Kojimbo's version. I agree.
Enhance and regulate their abilities.
Dude, remember when video games were non-political like this? Like, what the fuck? I hate Gamergate, man. They really changed up our beautiful, non-political, apolitical video games, dude.
Genetic control, information control, emotion control, battlefield control. Everything is monitored and kept under control. All in the name of averting catastrophe from weapons of mass destruction. And he who controls the battlefield controls history. War has changed. When the battlefield is under total control, war becomes routine.
Delali Lule Low. Gamergate was dumb. Still think Anissa Sarkeesian is annoying, though. I agree. I fucking hate politics in my video games, baby. So, you know, that's Kojimbo being his non-political self, as always. Okay. Classic. Snake is pro-Palestine. There's no way. Dude, this actually reminds me of, I think Cavernicle was making a video about like how gamers just like routinely misunderstand like Japanese video game developers. And it's such a funny, I didn't watch the video, but I was talking to him about this a little bit. But it's so funny because like the Yakuza series, a lot of people were saying that the Yakuza series is like not supposed to be woke, and then they wokeified it for like American releases. Like, no, dog. The Yakuza series is so goddamn woke since like 2006. Okay, they had like positive trans characters since Yakuza 3. Okay, so the notion that like it's not fucking a woke game or whatever is really dumb. Okay, so that's number one. And the same goes for, obviously, Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid is a great example of this. One Piece is another great example of this when it comes to like gender shit. Okay? Like, these games are literally woke as fuck. People are so dumb because they think like Japanese people across the board are like pervert freaks. Okay? Which is not, I wouldn't say it's completely true. Okay? They might have perverted fantasies about other shit, but when it comes to like gender stuff or when it comes to anti-imperialism, yes, very woke. A lot of artists are very woke. Japanese people are not a fucking monolith, for example. Okay? Yeah, you're also a terrorist in Final Fantasy VII, an environmental terrorist. Anyway. Most Yakuza games literally deal with corrupt cops and systemic injustice. Yes. Except for Japanese imperialism, they are pro that or it didn't happen. I mean, that's why the Yakuza games are so funny. Because, like, in some ways they're very woke, and in others they're not. Because every Yakuza game literally inevitably somehow finds a way to be like, Koreans are responsible for this. Okay? But also they are our friends. Some Koreans are our friends. But a secret Korean is always keeping us at bay. Guys, there is nothing more terrifying than a secret Korean, okay? A secret Korean that speaks perfect Japanese, that must be the guy who's the villain. Anyway, that's like a deep lore about Yakuza. Every fucking game, every goddamn game, it's like a secret Chinese or a secret Korean in Japan, okay? You better watch out. You're like, wow, this is kind of like a soap opera. And they're like, wait a minute, what? Why is this guy secretly Korean? Wait, what? The Chinese and the secret Koreans are working hand in hand? Yeah. Can I start anywhere in the series? I would definitely. Isn't the evil assassin from Zero Chinese? Yes. But also, I think even in Zero, there's like still secret Koreans, I'm pretty sure, right? There's always, start with Zero. And also, there's always secret Koreans. Okay? There are always, bro, in Yakuza, there are always secret Koreans. Okay? You're either half Korean and it's a secret, or you're full Korean and it's a secret. And maybe sometimes you're Korean and you don't even know it, and then that gets revealed. It's a huge part. Koreans always play a role in Yakuza games, and it is almost always in an antagonistic way. So. There are Koreans everywhere for those with eyes to see. Yeah. That's the Yakuza proverb. All right. Anyway, let's get to Karine Jean-Pierre grilled by reporter. When can we talk to Biden's doctor? Let me tell you, okay? It won't be at the top of the hour, at least. Okay? Biden has no idea. He does not have the mental fortitude to recognize that it's currently 2 p.m. Pacific and that there is a 3-minute ad break coming to Biden at the top of the hour. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know that he can avoid those top of the hour ads by subscribing for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. He doesn't know that either. Okay? But nevertheless, the top of the hour ad break is upon us and Joseph Robinette Brandon if he's in here watching. And you can avoid it by subscribing for $5 or for free, or by getting a gifted sub from Dynamic Jab 13. Thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Here's the 3-minute ad break now.
When can we talk to the president's doctor?
The president's doctor is going to do a physical. He's going to, and he has always put forth in the last 2 years a detailed memo.
The White House refusing to commit to having Biden's doctor field questions from the press when it comes.
Wait, let's play the full one. The full version is way worse. Before we get to the Fox News version of events, Langiam, thank you for the 5 gifted subs, allowing 5 people to also no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Before I hear from Brian, I want to kill myself. Let's hear from Karine Jean-Pierre, because she went on for like 3 minutes, and the full video is actually way worse than the Fox News shortened version. Okay, where she tries to engage in, again, one of the worst defenses I've ever seen of this, especially at a time when like the major point of contention is that Brandon does not have his cognitive functions intact, that his cognitive functioning is impaired. Let's see if I can find it. Ah, blah, la, 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 la. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Does anyone have it? Does anyone have the link, chat? Do you guys have the link? Where are my secret Koreans at? Secretly send me the link that I'm looking for of Corinne Jean-Pierre's longer video describing why in my logs, I think. Oh, here it is. Thank you. Chatter, you found it.
Does the White
Secret Korean Jean-Pierre. A good one. Okay.
White House think that the idea of the president taking a cognition test, a cognitive test, as a part of this physical is a legitimate idea, particularly just on the heels of the special counsel report, more polling, as my colleague Selena just mentioned, showing that many American people have concerns about that.
Look, I got this question last week as well, and I'm just going to say what Dr. O'Connor, it's kind of what he said to me about a year ago when the report came out last year, obviously on his physical, which is the president proves every day how he operates.
He proves every day how he operates, which is weird that I'm saying that because every single day when he operates, people are like, oh God, his brain is mush. Oh no, his brain is definitely not fine. Okay. It's like, that's what he's proving. So I don't know if that's a good thing to say here.
How he thinks, right? But by dealing with world leaders, by making really difficult decisions on behalf of the American people, whether it's domestic, whether it's national security. And so he shows it every day on how he thinks, how he operates. And so that is how Dr. O'Connor sees it, and that's how I'm going to leave it.
What do you think about the idea of taking that kind of a test?
I believe, for me, you're asking me my personal opinion, he is sharp. He is on.
Just cook the books, man. Get like a Trumpian style doctor to come in. Like, you know, the most alcoholic military doctor that they could find. Like Dr. Feelgood, who was like, Trump is so sexy. His penis is 13 inches. Okay. He's got a thick 8 was the previous reporting on the matter, but I'm here to tell you he's got a thick 13. That's right. We don't even know how that's possible. I'm a doctor and I'm a reputable medical professional. Remember when Trump's doctor literally was saying like he could live to the age 200 and his arteries were not filled to the brim with what I assume is lard from direct McDonald's consumption. Like, why can't the Brandon regime do this? Okay, you're so powerful. The Brandon regime is so powerful that it's investigating its political rivals. Okay, why can't you just find a fucking fake doctor?
On top of things, when we have
get the same doctor and be like, Joseph Robinette Brandon, sir, let me tell you something, okay? Joseph Robinette Brandon, he did the man-woman TV camera thing so hard my head spun. I have dementia now because I couldn't comprehend how good he was at his age, at his young age of 874. He was able to nail that test so fucking hard. It's like, it feels like he has a Benjamin Button disease. His brain is actually too young. He's doing Brian Johnson shit, okay? His penis, also young. His penis is basically underage at this moment. And his brain, on the other hand, overage, but under the age of 874, which is how old he is. Okay? For those throwing up huhs, I'm talking about that fucking rich guy who's like, I've de-aged my penis.
Meetings with him, with his staff. He's constantly pushing us, trying to get more information. And so that has been my experience with this president. Anything else outside of that, I just shared with you what Dr. O'Connor said to me. And so I'll just leave it there.
What was the guy, wasn't his name Brian Johnson or whatever, the PayPal villain? The rich guy who changed his penis, who changed his pee-pee. Where's the fuck? Oh, there it is.
To his mental acuity. Here with reaction is GOP Congressman and doctor himself, Mark Green. Congressman, great to see you. First off, do you think at this point the American people need to hear from his doctor?
I'll be back in a second.
I think with all the incredible gaffes and, loss of focus that the president's had on international media when he was in Vietnam, that incident, I think we need to know the report on his mental condition. This is the hardest job in the world, being president of the United States. We need someone whose faculties are 100% on all the time. And it doesn't look like this guy's are. And, even from a physician's standpoint, the symptoms, the way he speaks, the pressured speech sometimes, it's not appropriate, and we need to know.
When you remember how long Ronnie Jackson, when he was Dr. Ronnie Jackson, took questions about President Trump's health, went on for 45 minutes.
Yep.
So
yeah, Ronnie has been leading the charge on this. He's had multiple letters demanding the president release his, dementia test or his mental capacity tests.
So we got to talk about the border, and you're going to look to impeach Mayorkas as early as today. But I want to talk about the crisis. What about this? That app that this administration came up with so people can register to come across our border legally, it's been accessed 64 million times. This is as we're trying to get to the bottom of why our border's been flooded, and it's not climate change. Would we agree on that? Could that be the problem here? This
Oh,
app?
100%. Yeah, no, look, all they've done is subvert the laws written by Congress and create...
Oh, it is Brian Johnson. Yeah, I was right, dude. Here. My nighttime erections are now better than the average 18-year-old. Last night was 175 minutes. Here's the data. Nighttime erections are a biomarker for cardiovascular, physiological, and sexual health. Come on, chat. Sometimes I got... Wait, what the fuck? Oh my God, I got scared. I accidentally thought that I was like... Yeah, sometimes when I say jokes, like, you got to fucking be with it. You know what I mean? We're not synced up. We're not synced up, and I don't like it. When I talk about, Yakuza, the man who changed his penis. Being fully torqued for 175 minutes sounds like a punishment. Yeah, I mean, it's like closing in on the amount of hours that you're not supposed to have an erection for. It literally is like getting close up in the territory of, rhino dick pills and shit. Jon Stewart as every white man in America. Okay, we're going to get to Jon Stewart in a second. All right, let's finish this.
Mechanisms where people can get instant parole, and that is absolutely against the Immigration and Nationality Act. And that CBP1 app that you're talking about, I mean, the coyotes and the drug cartels just fill it out for an extra fee. I mean, it's absolutely absurd.
Will you look to impeach Mayorkas today, and will you do it if Steve Scalise is not there?
So the vote will happen today. We're voting today, and as I understand it, Steve is en route to come to D.C. and vote. And it was 215, add Scalise. We make history today.
And lastly, Mike Gallagher.
Okay, I don't care about the fucking immigration shit that they're talking about. All right, ladies and gentlemen, The Daily Show is back. Jon Stewart is back on The Daily Show. Now, let me tell you something, okay? Before we get into this, I haven't watched this. Okay? I haven't personally watched this, but I did see stuff like this. This is obviously a meme. Pretty certain that this is a meme. M. Hud was saying this is one of his friends. Jon Stewart is every white man in America that thinks he's irreplaceable. He saw black, brown, and yellow and women doing his job better and expanding the platform and got mad and decided to come back due to his ego. Now, that's actually a joke. However, it's not a joke. That Jon Stewart is 20 years younger than Joe Biden, but they look the same age. I'm just adding to that discourse. Liberals are very disappointed. Liberals are very, very disappointed. I haven't even seen this bit that he engaged in.